We all know that quote, right? A jack of all trades is a master of none. But did you know that the complete quote is actually a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one? What? Yep. The quote was actually a compliment to people who are jack of all trades. In the book Range, author David Epstein makes the case that having a broad range of abilities is better than extreme specialization. In this video, I'll take a look at some of the best ideas from the book, so let's get started. Idea number 1. Specialization is overrated. How do you get good at something? The common advice is to start early and practice often. It's often said it takes about 10,000 hours to achieve mastery at something. But this advice is only good for certain situations. It doesn't adapt well to the modern world. Also called deliberate practice, this works best in kind learning environments. These are environments with repeating patterns and well-defined boundaries. For example, the games of golf and chess are played in kind learning environments. The rules are well-defined and ways of achieving success in these environments are well understood. Our modern world, however, is full of examples of wicked learning environments. These are more complex and ever-changing. They're not as well defined as kind environments. This is where generalists perform much better. Now, what are some of the strengths of being a generalist? Let's take a look. Exploration. Generalists often dabble and explore in different interests early in their life. Author David Epstein calls this a sampling period. It helps them discover their passion. It teaches them a broad range of skills that they can use later in life. Epstein talks about a study that looked at comparing students in England versus students in Scotland and how they performed in their higher education system. In England, the students were told to specialize earlier during college, whereas in Scotland, the students spent the first 2 years of their college education exploring multiple fields before they had to specialize. Who do you think ended up better in the long run? If you guessed the late specializers, you would be correct. The early specializers made more money when they began their careers, but the late specializers eventually caught up in the income gap. What I found most interesting was that the early specializers quit more often. They switched fields and careers more than the late group. This is because they were forced to choose earlier and they may not have found their passion or their calling earlier in life. In the long run, it's the late specializers that ended up winning. Exploring and experimenting early on in life leads to more fulfillment and happiness in the long term. The next idea looks at how specialists versus generalists learn. And there's a big difference between how specialists and generalists learn. Since most generalists have slow starts due to trying many different things, their learning style is often slow and difficult. According to David Epstein, this is how learning should be. It should be slow and difficult. Learning slowly and in an inefficient way ends up being better than the specialist way of learning. Epstein cites research that instead of studying continuously for long hours, kids who studied with frequent breaks and changed up their learning environments while studying learned better. This also helped them build stronger connections with the material and they retained this information longer. If you're a specialist, chances are you're more used to tactics. You face a situation and you know what to do in response. Chess players are good examples of this. They use tactics during games. They observe previous games and different board positions. This helps them respond better to different in-game situations. Generalists, however, focus more on strategy. They focus on a broader, more abstract understanding of things. And as our world becomes more modernized and complex, this type of abstract or conceptual thinking ends up being more useful. Epstein actually further argues that this modernization of the world and growing increases in technological advancements have made specialization less valued or even obsolete. AI, automation, and machine learning have already replaced several jobs, and this trend is on the track to continue. Critical thinking skills, and abstract thinking skills are more important in today's time, let's look at the next idea, which is that of creative thinking. When it comes to how they perform in the real world, generalists are often more creative thinkers. This is because they're more likely to use analogical thinking, borrowing ideas from one field and applying it to another. And due to their breadth of experience, generalists are better at identifying the connections between different situations and finding similar solutions to unique problems. For example, in a study, a psychologist observed the problem-solving brainstorming sessions of research labs. He found that the most successful labs were made of scientists from different fields that had diverse backgrounds, and they all use analogies in their thinking. There's also examples throughout history of this as well. Charles Darwin used ideas from geology to develop his theory of evolution. Charles Babbage, who developed that first prototype that later became the modern computer, took inspiration from systems and processes that were used in the weaving industry. Henry Ford and his manufacturing line that changed the car industry's future was inspired by meat packing plants. He applied the principles he observed at meat packing plants and used them to innovate the assembly line manufacturing method of production. The next idea we're going to talk about is that of teamwork. Another great example of generalists in our world is how they perform in teams. Their broad perspective makes teams better as they bring different thinking styles and perspectives. Epstein talks about the 1986 Challenger space shuttle disaster, how some NASA engineers had doubts about the launch based on their analysis of some photos they had seen of the rocket's exterior seal. This was overridden by NASA managers due to the lack of quantitative data to support it. Epstein's argument is that NASA's over-reliance on a single way of thinking that prioritized quantitative data over other methods contributed to the disaster. When organizations specialize or focus on a single core value, they can often get stuck in that way of thinking. Organizations, like individuals, should embrace multiple conflicting ideas and solutions for potential problems. These are some of the best ideas that I found while reading the book Range. For more such ideas, please get yourself a copy of the book, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more such videos. Bye bye.